Hello everybody, very good afternoon. I'm Shilpa, working as a guest faculty of English from TTWRTC Charlotte. I hope you're all fine this corona pandemic. Stay safe and healthy at home and listen to my online lecture. Before moving on to the topic, I would like to take you to my topic pictures. Yes. What can you see on the screen? I hope you can see the title of emotions. Man's life is a combination of body and mind, emotions. Man is the human being is the only person who can speak, and that means he is combination of speech and thought that makes him different from animals around. And coming to emotions, we can feel emotions through emotional experiences in our lives. Emotions are conjoined with thoughts, actions, experiences, desires, and beliefs. Emotions play out the theater of the body. Said these words. It was said by Dr. Sarah McKay, neuroscientist and an author. Feelings play out in the theater of the mind. Recall something in the mind? Yes. It is the body which defines an emotion and mind which takes feelings, and the combination of body and mind is the character. Moment I read line. Emotions play out in the theater of the body. We are taken aback. Shakespeare's poem says, all the world's a stage. But this is not a stage, but this is our own body, and which makes and shapes our character. And we can think of that. And Shakespeare is all the time. Whenever we talk of theater and drama, mind Shakespeare, right? So coming emotions, I have various kinds of emotions represented in this picture. I hope you can see the picture. Yes. What are the kinds of emotions that each person has? There are various kinds of emotions which makes man different. A person has few emotions in mood number, few emotions in rest number, and every person is a combination of various emotions which the situation demands. Depending on the situation concerned, we show emotions, right? Not all the emotions are shown at a time, but we have lot of emotions here which represent a person and which drives a person various kinds of uh, various kinds of things concerned. I mean to say, if you talk about ecstasy, it is related to joy, serenity, and it builds love. Person. Love for divine. Ecstasy is divine. We cannot say it's very joyful every time. And if you get admiration, the kind of admiration we have for a model, a hero, and we trust a person, acceptance and submission. The emotion created here is submission. If we, the action created here is submission. Terror. We terrorize a person, or we feel fearful with wilder things in life. Apprehension, which creates fear, terror in mind, and amazement, surprise, and distraction. We all get distracted in some way or the other, depending on the situation. If it's a new thing, get distracted, get amused, and we get surprised for a few moments. And we all would have come across all these kinds of emotions since the childhood, but yet fail to understand that it is the kind of emotion which is making us so different. And grief, if you talk about sadness, grief, and sorrow, you feel very pensive, feel very thoughtful. Loathing, disgust, and wisdom creates disgust, and hence you are blue, and which creates remorse in your mind. And pensiveness creates disapproval for someone or something. Rage creates anger and annoyance, which creates contempt. People start hating you if you are very angry. People don't come to us when we are very angry. And anticipation and interest and vigilance is created by our body, and hence we feel optimistic. And anger, annoyance, and rage creates aggressiveness. People are aggressive. When you say tiger is jealous and aggressive, you see many people aggressive, not very agreeable, all kinds of situations. So I have 8 kinds of emotions here, the picture for you, which creates problems in the mindset of people. It is none other than anger. To protect us from danger, what do you need? You need to overcome your fear, protect yourself from danger. So anticipation is to look forward and plan for something, and surprise to focus us on new situations. Joy is to remind us what's important and what's memorable, and sadness connects with those with we love. Sadness connects us with those we love to remember, but we are very sad because of their loss. And now we can uh, truly say it's the situation where we are very sad for all the people for this pandemic situation, and trust to connect us with people who help us. We create trust in someone who help us a lot and who are very friendly with us. Disgust is to reject what is unhealthy. What are these emotions for? Every person has an emotion. Why am I talking this? Going to that, let us look at these pictures. You can see a boy smiling or joyful, a girl smiling or joyful. And it gives us pleasure to see a girl and a boy reading, always spending time together in school. Boy and a girl in a playful, joyful, and picnic time where boy and girl spending, two friends are spending with each other, and you can see a playful mood here. Under the sun, children are playing and elders are looking after. What can you remember when you see all these kinds of pictures? Remember our childhood, even I did. So, going on to the other part, let us relate the topic, these pictures. What can you see here? A mother holding a child, mother caressing child, mother longing for a child, spending time with children is very much important for a mother and very much lively. It makes us active and it makes us joyful. It gives us pleasure. It gives children pleasure as well. We see in the picture a girl is looking out for something. She's wanting something, or she's searching for something, or she's thoughtful about something. She's looking at someone, she's wanting someone, she's waiting. And next picture, I hope you can see sad, where a girl is seeing crying. What makes a girl cry? It is nothing but what she wants to get, what you want to start. Whether it's a silly thing, small thing, or a big thing, we are unaware of emotions of different people. But we start crying for what we want for. So, moving on to the other pictures, we can see a school going girl reading by. Usually, we see children crying, whining for going to school. Is that so? Yes. Even I must have done in my childhood. You see, both the children near school, either going out or coming out of school, or a child is seen gardening, child is seen playing, them playing with each other, and children are seen spending time with each other in the garden. What can you think of all this? It's related to children. You see many instances where children find themselves very happy and merry to be together, each other. They want affection, they want love, they want comfort, want to have some comfort. So if you don't have your friends near you, you start crying. If you don't give children what they wanted, they start crying. If you give a child a small reward, be it a pen, be it a chocolate, be it a small thing, be it a small uh, appreciation, they start laughing, start admiring, they start moving around, and they start smiling at us. Yes. So such kind of situations are very happy to get. And when you see a child crying, it gives sympathy. It builds affection. It gives your thought that why don't I go there and give warmth and affection. You see a child being beaten by or being beaten by a sister or being beaten by a teacher. How would it be? She starts crying. What could the reason be? Even if it is a small thing or a big thing, it's a big thing child. So being beaten by someone is a very bitter experience for a child. We remember it forever. So if you see in a classroom of 10 or 20, if you are appreciated, you feel very happy. If you are scolded, you feel very sad. That day becomes a bitter experience for you. And you see children learn, children enjoy going to school. Usually. And what could it be? Yes, I hope you have guessed topic of today, but yet I want to show you few pictures of the poetess concerned. I'm going to relate my topic one of the Indian English poetess, author. Poetess is in her childhood days, which makes us, yes. Can you see on the screen? What can you see on the screen? Yes, she is none other than Kamla Das. All those who know her, it is the family of Kamla Das, a well-educated family, Malayali family. That you can see a small child. Kamla Das as a small child. I hope you already know about Kamla Das, who is one of the revolutionary confessional poets of all times and one of the finest and my favorite poetess of all times. And coming on to our online lecture presentation, my topic for today is Punishment in Kindergarten by Kamla Das. I hope you already guessed the topic. And going on to know more about Kamla Das. Kamla Das in her teenage, in her middle age, her conversion in Muslim community. I hope some of you might have seen her in various English poems and read about her, but yet I would like to read about poetess Kamla Das to you. Kamla Das, Malayalam pen name Madhavi Kuti, Muslim name Kamla Suraya. She was born on 31st March 1934, Chris Road, Malabar Coast, in British India. Died on May 31st, 2008. Indian author who openly and frankly about female sexual desires and experiences of being an Indian. Das was part of a generation of Indian writers whose work centered on personal rather than colonial experiences, and her short stories, poetry, memoirs, and essays brought her respect and notoriety in equal measures. Das wrote both in English, mostly poetry, under the pen name Madhavati, and in the Malayalam language of southern India. Das was born into a high-status family. Her mother, Nalapat Balamani Amma, was a well-known poet, and her father, B.M. Nayak, was an automobile company executive and a journalist. She grew up what is now called Kerala and in Calcutta, now called Kolkata, where her father worked. She began writing poetry when she was a child. When she was 15 years old, she was married to Madhav Das, very tender age, right? A banking executive many years her senior, and they moved to Bombay, now in Mumbai. Das has three sons and did her working at night, writing at night, sorry. And I hope you all would have read about her in newspapers. She was a very well-known newspaper columnist. Coming to her poetic work, they could be classified under the genre of confessional poetry. She was one of the only confessional poets from Indian writers. Not a common style for Indian poets, least of all women. At least she was the one of the greatest poets. She was quite the pioneer in this respect and also for using English to pen her verse. Her English poetry has been compared to that of Annie Sexton and won her recognition and literary awards during her lifetime. The poems cast a critical eye on Indian society with its strong patriarchy and notions about how a woman should conduct herself. Interestingly, while her poetry is replete with feminist yearnings, there is a strong sense of spirituality running through some of the of written by Kamala Das that made her famous work. Introduction is Kamala's autobiographical poem in which she says she can recall the names of the men who dominate the politics of India and follows this up with the plea of her own place in the sun, while likely stressing that her knowledge of languages indicates that she is as educated. Now look at that. The introduction, the poetry introduction itself defines what Kamala Das is. I hope you can see Kamala Das on the screen, various pictures that I have collected for you. And I have a few lines of an introduction which gives introduction about Kamala Das' style of. I will read it for you. I don't know politics, but I know the names of those in power and can repeat them like days of weeks or names of months beginning with Nehru. I am Indian, very brown, born in Malabar. I speak three languages, write in two, dream in one. Don't write in English, they said. English is not your mother tongue. Why not leave me alone? Critics, friends, visiting cousins, every one of you. Why not let me speak in any language I like, language I speak? Look at that. What can you recall? It tells us the style of Kamala Das poetry, but yet the brave confession, the brave sayings, why not leave me alone? The moment you see spending time with friends is very difficult as soon as you become a famous personality. But yet, all the focus is on us, on our writings. Don't write English. The word, the words themselves state how painful her career started, how painful it was to make a stand on Indian English poetry as she did now. English is not your mother tongue. So the moment you start doing a thing, you are discouraged. That is the plight of Kamala Das. Being a woman, she was not encouraged enough to write it. As we can see in the introduction of her poem itself and autobiographical that Kamala Das is never encouraged by anyone to write. Come into it was her own it was her own stand, it was her own status that made her what is she now. Why don't you stay, leave me alone? Even the visiting cousins come and every now and then. They won't let us stay healthy, stay good, keep pinning us. So that was the poetry of Kamala Das. And coming to our home, today's lecture, Punishment in Kindergarten. The title itself says something. What does it say? says it talks about punishment in kindergarten. Whose punishment in kindergarten is that? Let us see. But let me read out the poem for you. Today the world is a little more my own. No need to remember the pain a blue frock woman caused, throwing words at me like pots and pans to drain that honey-colored day of peace. Why don't you join the others? What a dear child. Look at that. Looking at the reading the first stanza itself, we understand that it is the plight of someone expressed in the who could it might be speaker of is the speaker of, and who is she talking about? And what is her age? And what is the mindset of her? On the lawn, let me read out the next stanza for you while you understand the situation. On the lawn in clusters sat my schoolmates sipping sugarcane. They turned and laughed. Children are funny things, they laugh. In mirth, at others' tears. I buried my face in the sun-warmed hedge and smelled the flowers and the pain. The words are muffled now, the laughing faces only a blur. The years have sped along, stopping briefly at beloved hearts and moving sadly on. My mind is has found an adult peace. No need to remember that picnic day when I lay hidden by a hedge, watching the steel white sun standing low in the sky. It's the book life. Let us look into the pictures and try to make out what Kamala Das wants to state. What can you see here on the picture? Someone scolding a small child. Could it be a mother or it could be a teacher? To take it as a teacher, the poetry concerned that we understand that it's a teacher is scolding a child. If you scold a boy, it's different. If you scold a girl, it's different. Because the kinds of emotions that boy expresses is different from the kinds of emotions expressed by a girl. As we have already seen the emotional part of, but the affection wanted by a girl and affection wanted by a boy, tender age is the same. They want some affection. They want the. If you scold someone at that tender age, they would feel offended. They would sulk it. They would remember that incident forever. And they would remember the teacher who scolded them and feel sad and doesn't want to go to them anymore. It's the tendency of every child. If you caress them, come to you. Scold them, they go away. Why does this happen? If you say, shut your mouth and sit down. The child sits, yes, she sits for a moment and then runs off. Why does this happen? It's the tendency of children get affected by the affection that we show. Get away by the affection we show. The moment you show them love and care, they come to you. The moment you show them rage and anger and frown at them, they move away. So that's what happens in the about the poem. Let me read out what kind of poem is it and how does Kamala Das describe it and how it's divided into. Coming to the book, Punishment in Kindergarten is an autobiographical, as it already states. In the poem, Kamala Das recollects her childhood experiences. That means it was Kamala Das herself. When she was in childhood, she wants to narrate everything first. She recalls her kindergarten days when the teacher scolded her for being aloof from her friends. Why did she get scolded? For being aloof from her friends. You can understand the context she is in and the mindset. The poem has been divided into three parts. In the first part, the poet discusses how her teacher scolded her. In the second part, she memorizes her schoolmates laughing at her, making her weep. And in the final part, she says that being an adult, there is no need for her to memorize this experience. Now that she has attained such a stage and she finds it very good to be in such a mature stage and she doesn't want to remember that bitter experience that happened in her child. What happened? Why is this child crying? Because the teacher scolded her. If you can remember, children saying, coming to mothers, coming to elders and saying, Mummy, she scolded us. Mama, she scolded me. At that tender age, they know the difference between scolding and punishing. They don't know the difference between uh, a teacher and a mother. They treat the teacher as a mother is a teacher. Both of them, they need action, they need teaching as well as action. So can you can make out how Kamala Das would have felt at that stage. The poet begins with the line, Today the world is a little more my own. As you can see in the stanza 1, for reading it, I would make it clear to you that she is going to talk about a past event that was not pleasant for her. It's a very bitter experience. Next, she begins by narrating the day in her childhood. When did it happen? In her kindergarten. Have lower kindergarten, upper kindergarten, nursery, play school, everything. But in her school days, she remembers that in her kindergarten, of tender age of 4 or 5, she might have been scolded. When she went to a picnic along with her students, other students. On a picnic day, everybody wants to enjoy playing with friends, enjoy the situation, enjoy the environment, enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the weather, everything. So, how was it like to Kamla Das? Today, the world is a little more my own. That means she's not talking about AC when she was talking about way back it happened long before. No need to remember the pain. Is it? It was the pain. No need to remember the pain. Which pain is she talking about? A blue frog when caused. The moment you are very sad, we tend to remember even the color of the person, color of the dress, color of the pen, color of the book. And why does this happen? Because you are very offended or you're very joyful about that event. When you like everything, you like to remember everything else in around you. Look at the fan, you like at the color of the everything. When you look at the sad, mournful moment, and even then you remember the uh, kind of dress people wear, kind of things people do, kind of experience that you have. Yes. So throwing words at me like pots and pans. What did this frog then do? She was throwing words at me like pots and pans. It was Kamla Das when she was in her childhood. She was recalling the incident where her teacher scolded her. She says blue frog. She doesn't specify that it's teacher. When you're angry with your mom, when you're angry with your dad, you say that person. Say that. Say. So it's like that to drain that honey-colored day of peace. Which honey-colored day of peace? We already know by the explanation that it's a big day, but yet here unspecifically she says it is honey colored. Honey is always sweet, but we don't see honey colored. She personifies, she uses such kind of imagery which picturizes everything in front of our eyes. The moment you read a holy book of any faith, you see everything else in front of your eyes. Be it Bible, be it Quran, be it Ramayana, be it Mahabharata, it is all in front of your eyes, just moving around, like pictures around. So like people moving around us. So it was honey colored day of she felt it was very sweet for her, sweet day for her. When you begin the day with sunrise, you see the sunrise in front of your eyes. You feel it's going to drain that honey colored day of to completely take away. You see someone draining everything, draining your mind. You say draining our mind, draining our pocket. Say draining our pocket to drain, completely take away. Now that uh, everything is materialized, everything is cakewalk for us, like you see in washing machines. Drain the water away. What is that draining? Draining everything away from your mind. Drain everything away. What is that? Removing everything. She wanted to have such kind of experience which makes her feel like honey colored day of peace. She would have some peaceful mindset away from all the away from all the school going atmosphere. She must have felt like that at that tender age, but it was all great. It's all on with it's like that. Why don't you join the others? The peculiar child. What were the words used by the teacher? She says, why don't you join the others? She's annoyed at the behavior, surprised. Why don't you join the others? What a peculiar child you are. On a picnic day, you feel like going happy and merry with your friends, hands in hands, going and getting on the bus or getting on the van or getting on the vehicle that you are supposed to and playing with your friends, enjoying merrymaking, laughing, smiling, linking, everything. So here the teacher finds this girl aloof from all the others and she starts quoting. Not she starts telling her, why don't you join the others? What a peculiar child. But the situation here mentioned as the words used here are very painful and it reminds us of peculiarity expressed not even by a child but also a teacher. As I've already spoken to you, told you, discussed with you about the behavior of a teacher. A teacher is always a mother to a child. So once you go to a teacher, you feel that you are the goddess or it is a temple. We talk about school as a temple and we talk about teacher as a god herself. What is God? She or he is expected to show some kind of emotion, some kind of emotional warmth, affection to us, which makes us feel at home. So when the teacher says, why don't you join the others? The teacher is expected to take the child with her and make her play with the other friends and make her go with the other friends and make her laugh, cry, be happy, whatever the option is. So when this child is being aloof from others, instead of taking her to her friends, instead of making her join the group, she is saying, why don't you join the others? She's annoyed, she's surprised. What makes this child very different from us? Which was unexpected for this girl, who is a little shy going girl. Or one day, when she was taken to a picnic, it was the behavior exhibited by this child. Let's move on to the other picture. Yes. What can you see? It's a lawn, it's a garden where you see hedges here. What is it? So moving on to the next one. As I've already read to you, the second stanza we can see on the lawn in the garden where the picnic is going to take place in clusters, not in single numbers, in clusters. And so you can use this collective noun for stars. When you look at the sky in the night, you see stars in clusters, groups. You cannot count the stars. Likewise, you cannot count the picture, how many people are seen. Sat my schoolmates sipping sugarcane. They, they were sipping sugarcane. They were enjoying the sweetness of sugar. Your mouth waters. They turned and laughed. At whom they laughed? Whom are they laughing at? They are laughing at this girl who is being scolded by the teacher. The moment you see children, they are distracted for each and everything happens around. When you see someone appreciated, clapping for you, you look at them. Children look at them. What's going to happen? Like that, these children are turning at her and laughing. Turning from what? They are sipping sugarcane. Instead of sipping sugarcane, they turned and laughed at the girl. When you see a child, he's gone, he or she is gone. It's the way children are. Their mind gets distracted for each and everything. And that distraction happened due to this girl was being scolded by the teacher for not being with her friends and joining with her friends, and they laughed. Laughed at, why do they laugh? The moment you see some new thing, you see children laughing. Children are funny things, they laugh. Now that Kamala Das has attained such a mature status of a girl that she is saying children are funny things. Now she is not in the childhood and she has crossed the age, and so she is saying children are funny things. They laugh. They're funny things. She says things, not people. Because personification, the imagery, the language used here is very different from usual kind of poetry that you see. What is it like? Children are funny things. They laugh. They laugh at everything. Understand the picture. Kamala Das wants to say that here they are not able to understand the pain caused to her. They are not able to understand her emotional status, understand her she is in. She's in very playful mood when she entered the school, but now she is very sad. In mirth at others' tears, in mirth, yes, they are laughing at. How does it look like? You feel very hurt. I buried my face in the sun-warmed hedge. I'm shown the picture of the hedge. What is it like? It's like a garden where she lays hidden. Let me show you the picture. This is a dawn, and behind the hedge she is seen hidden. She buried her face in the sun-warmed hedge. You can see the sun. Maybe she might have hidden in the hedge. I buried my face in the sun-warmed hedge. Look at the imagery used here. Sun-warmed hedge. Hedges are very beautiful to get, but you being hidden under a hedge, that too on a picnic day, without enjoying with your friends, how does it? The emotional status of that girl, which made her remember that incident for so long, and smelled the flowers and the pain. What is she doing there? She hid her face from her friends. But can she hide her face from the sun? Can she hide her face from anything else? No. Can she hide her face from pain? She is in smelling the pain of the pain even near the flowers. Instead of smelling the fragrance of the flowers and smelled the flowers and the pain, what was she taking in? She was taking pain. Now I hope you would understand the emotional status of Kamala Das at that tender age. She wants to say that missing nostalgic feeling of memorable day, missing days, the missing affection, the missing friendship. In the second stanza, the poet says, when the teacher scolded her, other students who were sipping sugarcane started laughing at her. The children, according to Kamla, are funny creatures. They are made like that. They are very fine. According to Kamla Das. Children, according to Kamla Das, are funny creatures. Here, funny means minded, not able to understand the pain caused to her. Because if you see few groups of friends, they make, even they are children, they make one is friendly group, the other is enemy group. Why does this enemy arise? Because their mindsets are different from these set of friends, and they don't welcome the other friends, and these friends don't welcome. So it's the natural tendency of the children. They don't what is what, they can't make out what is what so clearly as a mature person. They laugh at others' pains, and they did the same when the girl was scolded without realizing how much she was hurt. She was her friend. Instead of calling her and caressing her, they all laughed. And that made her even more sad. What happens in the final stanza? The words are muffled now. What happened to her? The words are muffled. She is unable to hear any word clearly. The laughing place is only a blur. Blur is not naturally seen clear photograph that you have. You can see something blurring in your eyes. When you cry, when you see children cry, they can't see anything clearly. It's very foggy, like a winter season atmosphere. The years have sped along. So many years have passed away. Stopping briefly. Why stopping briefly? This dissatisfaction that continued in her life. The dissatisfied mindset that continued in her lifestyle remains so. And if you can remember, if you are not satisfied with the way that you are, you for you go for a distance and then stop, and then you start wondering, am I doing, am I right or am I wrong? Shall I move forward or shall I remain here or shall I go back? So it's the kind of mindset that developed in Kamala Das at that tender age, and she says, years have sped along, stopping briefly, why there may be a sad moment in memory. So stopping briefly, you don't have a clear kind of lifestyle where everything is possible, is made like this, like a chain, everything is there clearly like a scale. You have ups and you have downs, you have ups and you have downs. So like that, stopping briefly and then continue, stopping and continue, stopping and continue, up, down, up, down. So beloved hearts, why beloved? She must have felt some kind of happy moment which halted her, and then she started moving, and after she moved to a certain distance and moved sadly on, happy moment and the sadly on, she was not completely satisfied with that life. So she says, moving sadly on, my mind has found an adult peace. What is that adult peace now? When you see children, see some kind of peace in their mind, their attitude. And when you see old age people, elder people whose children are settle their lifestyle and wants to remain so forever and ever, it's called adult peace. After everything got settled down, your children are married, they have children, they have their own mind, they have their own lifestyle. So it has given an adult peace. Adult peace is a mature status of peace where you need long for something like a child does, wait for something child does, aim for something like youth or tender age people, no long desires, no long affection, no long nothing. So you have an adult peace. No need to remember that picnic day. So here is the day. She reveals that it is a picnic day when I lay hidden by a hedge, watching the steel white sun. Steel white. When do you have steel white sun? As soon as you see the dawn, you see orange, and you see red, and then you see golden sun, and then you see white sun. And maybe where she saw a steel white sun very clear. And look at the imagery used in, and look at the language, highly highly touching and moving, and by the hedge, watching the steel white sun. The entire poem is mentioning the sadness and pain of the school going girl at that tender age, whatever she has, steel white sun, standing lonely in the sky. Standing lonely. She was standing. It was a punishment. Standing out of the place, out of the place. Here is a picture. Not even the classroom, regular classroom. Stand up. When a teacher says stand up, feel offended. Stand with red hands like this, and you say teacher, and you put your head down. What is that? Standing itself is a punishment. Sit down, feel very happy, feel elated. Why is that? And stand up, it's a punishment. Lonely, not even a friend. Everyone is around you, but you, when you have all the food, all the food items placed in front of you, you can't eat them. Stop eating. You say, what is that? Standing lonely in the sky. Standing lonely in the sky. Who is standing lonely in the sky? The sun is standing in the sky. And she was imagining herself with the sun in the sky, standing alone, nobody around. And she was also having nobody around. There are only hedges where she lay hidden. She doesn't want to show her face to others, to be laughed, to be teased, to be mocked at. In the final stanza, the poet says that now she had grown into an adult. She had only a faint memory, not even the clear memory of the blue frock movement and the mocking faces of the children. The memory of that event has faded away because there is nothing in her childhood to cherish. That picnic day is spoiled. That made her day very unpleasant and that made her life very unpleasant. She thought, my life is like this forever. And there is nothing in her childhood that could be cherished for, that could be felt happy and desired for. She desires nothing. Her friends did not caress her. Her teacher did not caress her. Her beloved people did not join her in the picnic day. And so this was the day which made her very, very different from all the others and which made her teachers. I would like to I would like you to imagine the status of Kamala Das and the mindset of Kamala Das, and I would like to show Kamala Das herself reading out a script. Yes, I hope you can see on the screen none other than Kamala Das. and I hope you all enjoyed the speech. Yet we cannot stop uh, appreciating her for her brave books. Coming back to our lecture, I hope you all enjoyed my lecture and I hope you all understood it very clearly. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some of my personal feelings of Kamala Das and one of the finest poems of Kamala Das and the imagery used and theme of the poem, which is nothing but the nostalgia expressed. And I hope you enjoyed my lecture. Thank you so much.
I met the great Indian writer Kamala Das in Cochin in 1995, and then she came to Montreal. Because of her courage, poet Balan Chilikad calls Kamala Das the first female emotional revolutionary of our society. But Balan also knows that Kamala Das's revolutionary writings have coexisted with a great respect for honor and duty. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce Kamala Das.
Let me tell you about the long vacations I spent at my grandmother's place. My grandmother was my favorite human being, and my great-grandmother lived too. We lived in a house that is called Nalapat House. My sons have taken that name, the name of my ancestral house, being matriarchal. They didn't take my husband's name. I took my husband's name to make him feel that he belonged and to make him respectable. I took his. Merrily, can you take that blood poem here? It's difficult for me to. I'm not a young woman, I'm very old. So I have some problem with my eye. And that's why I have to depend upon friends. Thank you. But when I was a child, I was a very healthy child. And I will read a poem, which it is one of the early poems written when I was not yet 19. So you'll get a taste of that, the days. When this is called Blood. When we were children, my brother and I, and playing on the sands, drawing birds and animals, our great-grandmother said one day, "You see this house of ours, now 300 years old? It's falling to little bits before our very eyes. The walls are cracked and torn and moistened by the rains. The tiles have fallen here and there. The windows whine and groan, and every night the rats come out of the holes and scamper past our doors. The snake shrine is dark with weeds, and all the snake gods in the shrine have lichen on their hoods. Oh, it hurts me," she cried, wiping a reddened eye, "for I love this house. It hurts me much to watch it die. When I grow old," I said, "and very, very rich, I shall rebuild the fallen walls and make new this ancient house." My great-grandmother touched my cheeks and smiled. She was really simple, fed on God for years. All her feasts were monotonous, for the only dish was always God, and the rest mere condiments. She told us how she rode her elephant when she was 10 or 11, every Monday without fail to the Shiva shrine and back to home again. Told us of the jewel box and the brocade from the north, and the perfumes and the oils, and the sandal for her breast, and her marriage to a prince who loved her deeply for a lovely short year and died of fever in her arms. She told us that we had the oldest blood, my brother and she and I, the oldest blood in the world, a blood thin and clear and fine, while in the veins of the always poor and in the veins of the new rich men flowed a blood thick as gruel and muddy as a ditch. Finally, she lay dying in her 86th year, a woman wearied by compromise, legs quilted with arthritis, and with only a hard cough for comfort. I looked deep into her eyes, her poor bleary eyes, and prayed that she would not grieve so much about the house. I had learnt by then most lessons of defeat, had found out that to grow rich was a difficult feat. The house was crouching on its elbows then. It looked that night in the pallid moon, so grotesque and alive, when they burnt my great-grandmother over the logs of the mango tree. I looked once at the house, and then again and again, for I thought I saw the windows close, like the closing of the eyes. I thought I heard the pillars groan, and the dark rooms heave a sigh. I set forth again for other towns, left the house with the shrine, and the sands, and the flowering shrubs, and the wide, rabid mouth of the Arabian Sea. I know the rats are running now across the darkened halls. They do not fear the dead. I know the white ants have reached my home and have raised on walls strange totems of burial. At night in stillness from every town I live in, I hear the rattle of its death, the noise of rafters creaking, and the windows whine. I have let you down, old house. I seek forgiveness. O mother's mother's mother, I have plucked your soul like a pip from a fruit and have flung it into your pile. Call me callous, call me selfish, but do not blame my blood. So thin, so clear, so fine, the oldest blood in the world that remembers as it flows all the gems and all the gold, all the perfumes and the oils, and the stately elephant ride.